Hi, Julie Rader with Virgo's 2022 astrological forecast. If you like this video, please subscribe if you haven't already to my channel. It helps me grow it. Like the video and share it with any other Virgos you feel may benefit from this information. So in January, Virgos, we have your ruler, Mercury, going retrograde in Aquarius. So when Mercury goes retrograde, you feel it a lot because Mercury's your ruling planet. And when a planet goes retrograde, it's as if that planet goes on vacation. And Mercury is the planet of communication. So communication may be a little slower than usual, things like that, all the normal Mercury retrograde things. However, it is a time for redoing, revisiting. And for you, this Mercury retrograde is occurring in your sixth house. The sixth house is the house of routines and health. So with this happening in January, I really have a feeling that you Virgos especially will be looking at your New Year's resolutions and perhaps reinstating some health goals you had in the past and starting maybe some things that went to the wayside, especially during the holidays. So you may be looking at the food you put in your mouth and making resolutions about that, or your exercise routine, or even just your day-to-day routine, how you start your day. Maybe it's time to start your day with a smoothie or with some kind of exercise program. I feel like that this Mercury retrograde is going to be the biggest theme for you. Not something brand new, but something you have done previously that has worked for you. And then in April, the next big energy we have, and it's a huge energy, is this Jupiter and Neptune conjunction. This is happening in your seventh house. Jupiter is the great benefic. Neptune is the planet of the subconscious. When these two come together, it is really a beautiful energy that is extremely rare. And for you, happening in the seventh house, there could be just something magical that happens in your relationships, perhaps romantic relationships, perhaps it's a business partnership. And it really is an energy where it's important for you, especially you, Virgos, who like to get into your head, for you to get out of your head and to just believe in the magic. Believe in the magic of love, believe in the magic of trusting, believe that you have the ability to create the kind of relationship that you want. And this aspect happening in your seventh house, there really could be something quite beautiful that happens for you in regards to relationships. Also in April, we have a solar eclipse in Taurus, in fellow Earth sign Taurus. And this is happening in your ninth house. The ninth house is the house of travel, anything you have to get on a plane to go to. Maybe you're really feeling that it's time to relocate, or simply maybe you're just feeling the urge to travel. You may also receive some deep spiritual downloads with this eclipse. Between the eclipse and this Jupiter, Neptune conjunction, really be aware of the messages you're receiving, not from social media or from media in general, but the messages you're receiving in meditation or just these in your dreams, or these intuitive hits that you get. They could be quite strong for you in April. And then in May, we have Mercury going retrograde again. Like I mentioned, it happens a few times a year. And this is happening in Gemini, which is your 10th house. So this really could be about perhaps an old work opportunity coming back around. Or maybe there's a project you started at work that for whatever reason, maybe you had to shift your energy elsewhere. And this Mercury retrograde is asking you to go back and complete that project or edit it, make it better. We also have in May a lunar eclipse happening in Scorpio. This is in your third house. So lunar eclipses are more about endings, and this is happening in your third house. So again, it could be a project you were working on, and it's time either to let it go completely, or maybe you're finishing and wrapping it up. That very well could be the case with this Mercury retrograde and the lunar eclipse happening in the 10th and the third house. It really is about, or maybe something you've studied in the past with the solar eclipse. Maybe you're graduating, maybe you're finishing the course, or it's time to publish something you've been working on for quite some time. Again, it's also neighborhoods. So just like in April, there was that relocation that came up. It could come up again in May. Maybe you're feeling like it's time to change neighborhoods or make a big move. Jupiter also we're moving into Aries in May, and that's your eighth house. So deep psychological house, also the house of other people's money. Um, you could be when Jupiter is going in there, it could be that maybe you are approved for a loan you applied for, or something of that nature. And then in July, we have another huge aspect, which is a Uranus North Node conjunction. Uranus is the planet of breakthroughs and unexpected kind of earthquakes, but it doesn't have to be physical earthquakes, although it could be. It's more of shaking things up, disrupting the stable foundations that we have. When it's conjunct the North Node, which is our destiny, our vision for what we want for the future, and this happening in your ninth house, again, the house of potentially relocation, but also spirituality, higher learning. You could just have, again, another huge spiritual download. You could be really, again, realizing, you know what, it's time for me to make a big move or to travel more, to see more of the world, things like that. In September, we have Mercury going retrograde again in the sign of Libra in your second house. You will really be revisiting your finances, looking at your finances and looking at your self-worth. Are you charging what you're worth? Going through your home and realizing, what do you want to keep? What no longer is valuable to you? Looking at your finances, how do you spend money? Look at your budget, reviewing all of these things, not adding anything new, not new investments, but going through, taking inventory of any investments that you have or just your financials in general. In October, we have Mars, the planet of motivation, going retrograde in your 10th house. You may feel like things are a little stagnant at work at this time. At the same time, we have Mercury, your ruler, entering into Scorpio. So that means that Mercury's in Scorpio's in Scorpio, and Mars being in Gemini. It's called mutual reception, where the planets are in each other's signs, which activates those two houses even more. So activating your 10th house of career and your third house of learning, teaching, publishing. So again, maybe there's a project, anything dealing with communication that really becomes highlighted. Third house again is going to be activated because we have this solar eclipse also happening in the third house. So that is really, again, it's a solar eclipse is a new moon eclipse, activates, energizes that new beginning energy even more. So something with writing, speaking, communication, publishing, social media, could even have something to do with your siblings, or again, travel, but more short distance travel, something in your neighborhood. Then in November, we have a lunar eclipse in Taurus. It's a full moon eclipse happening in your ninth house. Ninth house, third house, very activated this year. 10th house as well. So a lot of spiritual downloads, a lot of communication, whether it's social media or the way that you communicate with those in your life. And then 10th house career. Big energies the entire year. So this lunar eclipse in the ninth house, again, really activating relocation, travel, spiritual downloads, higher learning. And then the final Mercury retrograde we have of the year will begin on the 29th of December, at the very end of the year. So we'll go into January. And this is in Capricorn, which is a fellow earth sign. And it's thought that when Mercury retrograde happens in the same element as your sign, that it can be a bit more harmonious than other Mercury retrogrades. And for you, this is happening in your fifth house. So, reflecting upon anything to do with children, creativity, romance, and really making sure, looking at your life and saying, "Hey, am I working too much?" Which is very common for you, Virgo, and not making enough time for fun. Looking at things like this and making appropriate adjustments. All right, enjoy 2022, Virgo. Thanks for tuning in.